The restaurant was silent, except for the clatter of fine china and the low hum of expensive jazz. She wiped a table with trembling hands, her apron stained with coffee, and smiled at the customers, just like she did every day. But today, something felt different. A man in a tailored suit, the kind that screamed billions, leaned across the table, eyes narrowing. "That's not what it says," he snapped, pointing at the menu in perfect Japanese. A hush fell. The staff froze. Customers turned, curiosity and judgment sharp in their eyes. She looked at him, then at the menu, and spoke, fluidly, flawlessly, in the very language he had tried to use to assert power. Her voice didn't just answer his words, it echoed a truth he wasn't ready to face. The room stiffened. The billionaire CEO, a man whose deals controlled fortunes, hadn't expected a waitress, black, young, underestimated, to call him out. But in that instant, something inside him cracked, and something inside her ignited. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was the spark, the first thread in a web that would unravel a $500 million lie. The days that followed were a careful dance of observation and patience. Amaka arrived early, stayed late, and kept her ears open for every conversation, every slip, every hint of wrongdoing. Malik shadowed her in subtle ways, watching Takahashi's every movement with a keen eye, noting assistants' behaviors, patterns of overbilling, hidden charges, and strange paperwork that never made sense. Hana scanned office memos and invoices, quietly photographing anything suspicious. Each night, they met at Amaka's apartment, spreading out notebooks, laptops, and receipts across the small kitchen table. The city lights poured through the window, reflecting in their determined eyes. "We need a map of everything," Amaka said, her finger tracing a series of receipts. "Every transaction, every false statement, every fake investment. If we can prove patterns, we can show it's systematic." Malik leaned back, rubbing his temples. "It's dangerous. If he finds out we're watching, he could... I don't even want to think about it." Hana spoke softly, but firmly. "We have to. No one else will. The public sees him as untouchable because of his money and influence. But that doesn't mean he's untouchable." Days turned into nights of quiet tension. Amaka began speaking Japanese, at work in ways that seemed casual but allowed her to communicate with suppliers and staff without detection. She uncovered conversations about hidden accounts and offshore transactions, pieces of a puzzle no one else had noticed. Malik befriended lower-level employees, subtly probing for inconsistencies, listening for small admissions that could later become evidence. One evening, Amaka paused in the dim glow of her apartment, staring at the spreadsheets and receipts stacked before her. "We're close," she whispered to herself. "I can feel it. But timing is everything. One wrong move, and this could all blow up in our faces." The team's strategy grew more sophisticated. They created secure, encrypted folders to store their findings, rehearsed conversations they might have if confronted, and developed a chain of evidence so tight it would be impossible for Takahashi to deny. But the deeper they dug, the more they realized the extent of the corruption. Fake investors, phony contracts, inflated profits. The man they had laughed at for his arrogance was not just careless, he was cunning, calculating, ruthless. "You see this?" Malik said one night, pointing to a series of bank transfers. 2.5 million moved last month alone. "Where does it go? Who even sees this?" Hana's eyes widened. "He's laundering through shell companies. We have to track it all. Every single cent." Amaka nodded. "And we will. We need patience and precision. If we rush, he'll see it coming." The emotional toll was immense. Every time they returned home, the adrenaline ebbed into exhaustion. Amaka's friends started noticing that she was distant and looked tense all the time. She didn't answer. Malik stopped joking as much at work, his laughter replaced with quiet focus. Hana's usual calm was replaced with a nervous energy that made her tremble at unexpected noises. Despite the pressure, small victories kept them going. They intercepted confidential emails, recorded suspicious calls, and collected digital evidence with meticulous care. Each discovery was a step closer to the truth, each risk a testament to their courage. Late one night, Amaka's phone buzzed, a message from a mysterious source. "Meet me. I can help. 9 p.m. Liberty Park. Come alone." The three of them huddled together. "Do we trust this?" Malik whispered, unease coating his words. Amaka's jaw tightened. "We don't have to trust them. We have to verify. If they provide proof, it will strengthen everything we've gathered. But we go cautiously. No mistakes." The night of the meeting was thick with fog. Amaka's heart raced as she stepped into Liberty Park, the silence almost suffocating. A figure emerged from the shadows, a former accountant from Takahashi's empire, their face tense with fear, but eyes filled with urgency. "You're brave to do this," the accountant whispered, handing over a folder of documents. "This shows the full scope: offshore accounts, false audits, falsified contracts. But be careful. He'll do anything to protect himself." Amaka clutched the folder tightly. Every detail validated the suspicions she had carried for weeks. This was the key: the moment their meticulous planning could finally translate into exposure. Returning home, the trio reviewed the documents, their excitement tempered with fear. Every line was a dagger aimed at Takahashi's empire. Every number, every forged signature, every phony contract told the same story: a carefully orchestrated scam hiding behind a billionaire's polished smile. But they weren't naive. They knew exposure wouldn't be immediate or easy. Takahashi's influence extended far beyond the cafe. Lawyers, PR teams, loyal employees, every move they made would be countered with formidable force. "We need a plan for the reveal," Hana said. "We can't just leak this online. He'll bury it. We need the media, authorities, people he can't control." Amaka nodded. "We'll stage it strategically. First, proof, then exposure, public pressure. By the time he reacts, it will be too late to spin it." Malik rubbed his forehead. "And if he tries to intimidate us? Threaten us?" Amaka's gaze hardened. "Then we're ready. Fear won't stop us. This isn't just about money. It's about truth, justice, and finally dignity." The tension in the apartment was palpable. Late nights blurred into early mornings, and every slight sound outside, footsteps, sirens, distant chatter, made them jump. They became shadows in their own city, moving with caution, speaking in code, leaving no trace of their plans. At work, Amaka continued to serve with grace, her language skills allowing her to extract information subtly. Malik built alliances with co-workers, quietly gathering statements. Hana compiled data, ensuring everything was backed up and cross-verified. And through it all, Takahashi remained oblivious, his arrogance blinding him. He flaunted his power, belittled staff, and boasted about acquisitions, unaware that the very people he underestimated were plotting his downfall. One evening, as the three sat around the kitchen table, Hana whispered, "The public reveal. It has to be dramatic, cinematic, something that can't be ignored, something that will expose not just the scam, but him." Amaka nodded, determination burning in her eyes. "Then we wait for the perfect moment. And when it comes, we act. No hesitation, no compromise. This ends with him exposed." The night stretched on, and the city slept, ignorant of the storm about to break. In their small apartment, three ordinary individuals carried the weight of a $500 million secret, their courage stronger than fear, their purpose clear. The spark from the cafe had grown into a roaring fire. Every day, every decision, every careful step brought them closer to the inevitable confrontation. Takahashi's empire was a facade, and soon the world would see it for what it really was. The tension was unbearable, yet exhilarating. Questions haunted them. Would their evidence hold up? Could they survive the legal and social backlash? Would Takahashi retaliate in ways they hadn't imagined? And still, the answer was undeniable. They had no choice but to continue. Every slight, every injustice, every lie screamed for exposure. And when the time came, nothing, not wealth, not influence, not fear, would stop them from revealing the truth. Because this wasn't just a battle for money, it was a battle for dignity, for justice, for every person who had ever been silenced or underestimated. And Amaka, Hana, and Malik were ready to fight. The day of reckoning arrived with the city buzzing, oblivious to the storm about to hit one of its most untouchable figures. Amaka, Hana, and Malik moved through the cafe with practiced calm, masks of normalcy hiding hearts pounding with anticipation. Each detail of their plan had been rehearsed countless times, every risk calculated, but adrenaline doesn't bow to planning. The public event was set at Takahashi's latest corporate gala, an ostentatious display of wealth, crystal chandeliers, orchestral music, and a crowd of investors, journalists, and influencers eager to witness the billionaire's triumph. Amaka's nerves screamed, but she kept her face composed, her Japanese impeccable, her demeanor disarming. "This is it," Hana whispered, her fingers trembling as she held the folder containing months of meticulously collected evidence. "Once we start, there's no turning back." Malik nodded, jaw tight. "He won't see it coming. Not from us." They arrived just as Takahashi took the stage, a polished smile masking the subtle tension behind his eyes. He was in his element, lauded by the crowd, confident in his untouchable persona. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth, "thank you for trusting me. Together we will continue to innovate, invest, and expand. The empire grows because of transparency, integrity, and dedication, qualities I hold dear." Amaka exchanged a glance with Hana. It was time. The trio moved toward the media section under the guise of being staff, careful to avoid immediate detection. Hana uploaded the files to a secure live-access link she had prepared for trusted journalists. At the same time, Malik subtly ensured no one intercepted them. Amaka stepped closer to the stage, phone discreetly recording every movement, every subtle expression of arrogance and false confidence on Takahashi's face. Then the moment came. Amaka's voice cut through the polished hum of the gala. "This is not the transparency you claim, Kazuo Takahashi." The room froze, heads turning, murmurs rising. She held up her phone and projected images of the evidence onto a nearby screen. Screens showed offshore accounts, falsified contracts, inflated profits, and manipulated audits, each line a dagger of truth. Gasps erupted. Journalists scrambled to verify, capturing screenshots, recording reactions. The crowd shifted from admiration to disbelief. Takahashi's smooth demeanor faltered. For the first time, his carefully crafted persona cracking under the weight of undeniable proof. "What is this?" he stammered, voice trembling. His aides tried to intervene, but the evidence spread faster than they could control. Social media feeds buzzed, journalists typed furiously, live streaming the unraveling. Amaka continued, her voice steady, unwavering. "This empire is built on lies, 500 million of false claims. Every investor is misled. Every contract was falsified. Every number is manipulated. This is not success. It's a scam. And today it ends." Malik stepped forward, his own footage corroborating Amaka's evidence, showing internal communications and shady dealings he had quietly captured. Hana displayed spreadsheets linking shell companies directly to Takahashi's personal accounts. The crowd, previously dazzled by wealth and charisma, now saw the truth. Shocked investors whispered to each other. Reporters demanded statements. Cameras clicked relentlessly, capturing every flicker of fear on Takahashi's face. Then came the twist, a detail even Takahashi hadn't prepared for. Among the evidence was a recording of him attempting to belittle Amaka months earlier, mocking her language skills in front of staff. The audio, clear and undeniable, played over the gala's sound system. His smug smile vanished completely. The room erupted. Investors gasped. Journalists shouted questions. Social media feeds exploded with live commentary. Takahashi's empire, long considered untouchable, collapsed under the scrutiny of the evidence and public exposure. He tried to speak, to recover, but every word was drowned by the weight of proof, by the realization that the facade had been stripped away. Security. Guards moved nervously, unsure whether to protect him or confront him. He was a man trapped in the empire he had built, a web of lies now visible to the world. Amaka felt a surge of vindication, but also a quiet sadness. She had expected arrogance, but not the full extent of deception. This man had thrived on dishonesty for decades. And yet, watching the truth unravel in real time, she knew that justice, finally, was within reach. Outside the gala, media crews scrambled, flashing lights capturing the chaos. Headlines were already forming. Billionaire exposed, 500 million scam revealed by cafe waitress. Clips of Amaka speaking Japanese and confronting Takahashi were trending. The public witnessed not just a financial scandal, but a story of courage, resilience, and the dismantling of systemic underestimation. In the chaos, Takahashi's closest allies abandoned him, the power structure crumbling. Board members resigned, lawyers stepped back, and loyal employees quietly documented their own accounts of mismanagement and deception. Within hours, the billionaire's image was irreparably damaged. Amaka, Hana, and Malik watched from a distance, hearts pounding, emotions raw. The adrenaline had faded into something heavier, a profound sense of justice served. They had risked everything, and the truth had prevailed. And in the final cinematic moment, the twist no one anticipated, Takahashi attempted to salvage control by addressing the crowd, only to be interrupted by a live feed from a prominent news outlet showing an internal video he had forgotten about, a confession of embezzlement recorded months prior. The crowd erupted in disbelief once again. His empire had not just cracks, it was a total collapse, revealed by those he had underestimated the most. Amaka's voice, calm but firm, echoed in her own recording. No amount of wealth can hide dishonesty forever. No arrogance can withstand the truth. And no one, not even a billionaire, can silence courage when it speaks. The gala ended in chaos. Takahashi fled the stage, security trailing, but the damage was irreversible. Journalists, investors, and the public had witnessed history. A young black waitress, underestimated and dismissed, had single-handedly exposed a $500 million scam for Amaka, Hana, and Malik. The climax wasn't just about the downfall of a man. It was about the validation of their efforts, the power of persistence, and the undeniable truth that courage, even in the face of overwhelming odds, could dismantle the seemingly invincible. As cameras continued flashing, Amaka stepped outside into the cool night air. The city skyline stretched before her, lights glittering like the promises Takahashi had broken. She exhaled, a mix of relief, exhaustion, and triumph. This was more than justice. It was a statement that voices long silenced could rise and change the course of history. The world would remember this day. The billionaire's empire, once untouchable, lay exposed. And the waitress who spoke Japanese, the woman everyone overlooked, stood at the center of a storm that had finally revealed the truth. The morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of Café Mirai, casting long, golden lines across the polished wooden floor. Amaka Bolo adjusted her apron, tying the strings just right. She was 28, petite but fierce, with a smile that could disarm even the harshest customers. Her hair, tightly coiled and pulled into a neat bun, bounced slightly as she moved. Every day she carried a weight invisible to most, the burden of being underestimated, overlooked, judged for her skin, for her accent, for her very existence. Amaka's fluency in Japanese wasn't widely known. She had studied it in college, fascinated by the culture, and had perfected it over late nights practicing with podcasts and textbooks. But in her daily life, it was a secret weapon she rarely needed, until now. Her colleagues were a mixed group, yet quietly bonded by their shared struggles in the cafe. Hana, a shy Japanese-American barista, admired Amaka's courage but feared confrontation. Malik, a tall, easygoing black server, often joked to keep spirits high. But he, too, had stories of bias etched into his daily routines, like being passed over for promotions despite his experience. The billionaire in question, Kazuo Takahashi, was the type of man whose presence commanded attention without effort. Expensive suits, the faint scent of cologne that screamed power, and a smile that rarely reached his eyes. To the public, he was a visionary, a genius who had built a 500 million empire from scratch. To Amaka, he was a symbol of everything that thrived on appearances while ignoring truth, honesty, and integrity. It was her first week back after vacation, yet the tension in the air felt heavier than usual. Whispers of Takahashi's inspection visit had spread through the cafe like wildfire. Managers fawned over him, colleagues whispered nervously, and Amaka carried her tray with quiet determination. She knew better than to expect fairness here. "Morning, Amaka," Hana said softly, leaning against the counter. "Are you ready for the you-know-who?" Amaka gave a faint smile. "As ready as I'll ever be. Just remember, we see more than they think." And she wasn't wrong. As the day unfolded, Amaka's sharp eyes noticed the microaggressions, the subtle dismissals that Takahashi and his entourage wielded like weapons. A server hesitated to take his order correctly. Another customer assumed she couldn't understand a simple request. Every slight etched deeper, layering a familiar, heavy frustration atop her patience. Lunch hour arrived with the chaos of a city in motion. Plates clattered, voices overlapped, and the air smelled of roasted coffee and fried tempura. Takahashi appeared with a retinue of aides and assistants, moving as if the cafe existed solely for their entertainment. He sat at a corner table, flipping through the menu with a subtle arrogance that pricked at Amaka's skin. "Excuse me," he barked at her. "This says one thing in English, but in Japanese, it doesn't match. That's not what it says." The room froze. Customers paused mid-bite. Staff stopped moving. For a moment, the tension was so thick it could be sliced with a knife. Amaka walked over, tray in hand, and looked at the menu. Her heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from recognition. This wasn't merely a misunderstanding, it was a power move, a subtle attempt to humiliate, to assert superiority. She leaned slightly forward. "Actually," her voice was calm, precise, fluid. "It says exactly what it says, in Japanese." Takahashi's expression flickered, a microsecond of disbelief, quickly masked by annoyance. He straightened his posture, attempting to reclaim control, but the effect had been set. The room's atmosphere shifted. For the first time, someone had spoken truth to his manufactured authority. Amaka returned to the counter, the whispers beginning to swell behind her. Hana's eyes were wide, Malik's jaw tight. This small act, an everyday moment seemingly trivial, planted the first seed of change. Outside the cafe, the city moved on, oblivious. Inside, the staff lingered in a charged bubble, each person processing what had happened. For Amaka, the incident was a reminder. The world was full of injustices waiting to be exposed, lies waiting to be unmasked. And she would not be silent. Later that evening, after the cafe had closed and the streets hummed with the distant rumble of traffic, Amaka sat at her small apartment kitchen table, a notebook open in front of her. She wrote furiously. Observations. From the cafe, patterns of bias, financial discrepancies whispered about among staff who had worked for Takahashi's empire in other roles. She had no proof yet, no official documentation, but she had the knowledge, the memory, the eyes that had seen too much to ignore. Her phone buzzed, a text from Malik. "We need to talk. Serious." Minutes later, he arrived, his usually jovial demeanor replaced by a gravity that matched her own. Hana joined shortly after, her notebook filled with evidence she had gathered from the office side of the cafe operations. The trio huddled in the tiny living room, voices hushed, eyes darting toward the windows. "This isn't just about him embarrassing us," Amaka said, her hands gripping the notebook. "It's bigger. There's a pattern here. Every scam, every lie, it all ties back to him, and it's been going on for years." Malik leaned forward. "You're saying $500 million? "Yes," Amaka replied, her tone steady despite the storm of adrenaline inside her. "And we're going to show it." The plan wasn't clear yet. They didn't know how far Takahashi's influence reached or how much danger they were courting. But one truth was undeniable. The injustice they had witnessed in that cafe was just the tip of the iceberg. Every slight, every sneer, every attempt to dismiss them had been a test of their limits. And they had passed. Hana's voice broke the silence. "We can't do this alone. We'll need allies. People who can help us document, expose, make it impossible for him to cover up." Amaka nodded. "And we will. Starting tomorrow, we gather evidence quietly. We watch. We listen. And when the time is right, we strike." The night deepened outside, casting long shadows across the small apartment. The city slept unaware of the storm brewing within its heart, a storm led by 3 ordinary cafe workers ready to confront a billionaire's empire. And somewhere in the upper echelons of Takahashi's world, the first cracks of doubt were forming. Not yet visible, not yet acknowledged, but the pressure was building. The balance of power was about to shift, and the events of that day at Cafe Mirai would be remembered as the moment the slightest spark began to ignite a wildfire of truth. The morning after the gala, the city buzzed with disbelief. News outlets ran non-stop coverage, flashing images of Amaka speaking Japanese, holding evidence, and confronting Takahashi in front of the world. The hashtag #OsExposedEmpire trended worldwide, a digital echo of months of careful investigation and courage. Inside the cafe, the atmosphere was electric. Colleagues approached Amaka with wide-eyed admiration, murmuring congratulations and awe. Hana clutched her notebook tightly, smiling, for the first time in weeks without the weight of tension pressing her shoulders down. Malik grinned, his usually quiet humor returning in bursts of laughter and teasing, relief washing over him. Amaka sat at the counter, coffee in hand, letting the moment sink in. She had expected fear, maybe even resentment from some. But what she saw was a wave of respect, not just for her skills, her intelligence, or her courage, but for her refusal to be silenced. The humiliation Takahashi had tried to inflict months ago had transformed into empowerment. Across town, Takahashi faced immediate consequences. Investors pulled funding, board members resigned, and authorities opened official investigations into his financial practices. The billionaire who had once loomed untouchable now scrambled to protect a reputation in ruins. Former employees came forward with corroborating statements, adding layers to the already overwhelming evidence against him. Within days, his $500 million empire had collapsed into legal chaos. Amaka, Hana, and Malik were invited to speak at media interviews, financial panels, and community events. Each appearance was a reminder that ordinary people, underestimated by society, could dismantle corruption and injustice when armed with courage, skill, and truth. For the trio, the victory was deeply personal. Amaka's Japanese language skills, once a quiet secret, had become her shield and sword, a symbol of intellect and resilience in the face of prejudice. Hana's meticulous documentation and analytical mind proved that patience and attention to detail could topple even the most fortified lies. Malik's ability to connect with people, earn trust, and gather information revealed the power of empathy and observation in uncovering hidden truths. The cafe itself became a local landmark, not for its coffee or ambiance, but for the courage displayed within its walls. Patrons visited, curious to witness the place where history had quietly shifted. Staff turnover dropped as morale skyrocketed. People wanted to work in an environment that had nurtured bravery and justice. Yet the most profound impact was subtle. Community members, particularly young people, saw the possibility of challenging systemic injustice even when the odds seemed insurmountable. Schools invited Amaka to speak, social media platforms amplified her story, and mentorship programs sought her insight on empowering underrepresented voices. Her story became a case study in courage, patience, and strategy. Amaka, reflecting in quiet moments, understood the more profound significance. Justice was not just legal, not just financial, it was moral and emotional. Takahashi's empire had fallen, yes, but the greater triumph was in restoring dignity to those silenced by bias, prejudice, and underestimation. Late at night, the trio often gathered in Amaka's apartment once more, not for plotting, but to decompress, to celebrate the small victories and reflect on how far they had come. Hana sipped tea, smiling softly. "We did it. We really did it." Malik laughed, shaking his head. "I still can't believe it. I mean, a waitress, a barista, and a part-time accountant just toppled a billionaire empire." Amaka allowed herself a quiet, victorious smile. "It wasn't just us. It was every small injustice we refused to ignore, every truth we refused to hide. That's what made this possible." Outside, the city moved on, as it always does. But now it carried a story of courage and justice that could not be erased. The ripple effect had begun. Individuals emboldened to speak, communities empowered to question, and a culture slowly shifting toward accountability. The world had witnessed the collapse of a billionaire's deception. Still, more importantly, it had seen the rise of ordinary heroes who refused to be silenced. And in that victory, Amaka, Hana, and Malik found not only justice, but a sense of purpose that would carry them forward for the rest of their lives. The story of Amaka, Hana, and Malik is more than a tale of a billionaire's downfall. It is a reminder that courage does not require grandeur, that truth does not bow to power, and that justice often emerges from the most unexpected places. 2. Often society underestimates the quiet strength of those who are overlooked, those whose voices are dismissed, whose talents are ignored, whose dignity is questioned. But Amaka's story proves that knowledge, preparation, and unwavering resolve can transform vulnerability into power. Speaking Japanese, documenting evidence, connecting with allies, each skill, each choice became a tool for justice. Racial bias, prejudice, and systemic injustice thrive when people remain silent. Every moment Amaka was underestimated, every slight Takahashi tried to impose, became fuel for a fire that ultimately exposed the truth. It is a lesson in persistence, that even small actions, repeated with intention and courage, can dismantle immense power built on deception. What if this happened in your school, workplace, or community? What injustices go unnoticed because people feel too small to speak up? This story challenges us to see, to act, and to refuse complacency. Justice is not only about the law, it is about standing up for integrity, truth, and fairness, even when the odds seem impossible. Amaka's victory was not just a financial triumph. It was an affirmation of dignity, equality, and the human spirit. It reminds us that heroes do not always wear capes. Sometimes they wear aprons, carry notebooks, or quietly record evidence. The impact of their courage spreads far beyond one individual. It inspires communities, challenges entrenched power, and reshapes the world. In the end, the lesson is clear. Never underestimate yourself. Never ignore injustice. And never, ever let someone else define the limits of your power. The smallest voice, when backed by truth and courage, can topple empires, rewrite narratives, and create a legacy that inspires generations.